I started in 1992 in Australia. I've spoke all over the world, 4 million international air miles of doing presentations. So what's really interesting about all this, you hear terms like inner peace and empowerment, and it kind of goes back to a Mark Twain quote. Mark Twain said, the two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you figure out why. Like, why are we here? So I started doing this in 1992. I was invited to speak to a group of 500 people that paid $5,000 to be in the room. I've been a public figure since I was 14, but I'd never been a speaker in that context. I've been an event producer. I've been on TV so many times I lost count. So what? Okay, so I get interviewed a lot. So anyway, I got invited to speak to this group. And the person that invited me said, do you want to speak to this group of people? Because I would joke around and mess with people's minds all the time, and that's why this person invited me to do it. And I had people call me up and they go, I've never done a presentation before, and I have to speak to my company. I've never done anything in front of a group. Can you give me some advice? And I go, yeah, absolutely. You have to do 4 things. You have to make people cry. You have to make them laugh. You have to make them think deeper than they've ever thought in their lifetime. You have to thought provoke them, and everything you say has to come from your heart. Don't be using PowerPoint. Don't be doing any of that stuff, because that doesn't inspire people. So that's how I got started. So I got invited, and the woman who invited me to speak to these people who had paid $5,000 said, what's the title of your presentation? The Power of Truth. So I stood on stage and I had 90 minutes, and there was a production riser in the back, and they gave me the 5-minute signal. You got 5 minutes left. And I went, wow. So I stood up here and nobody in the room moved the whole entire time. But I went, you know what? I have to make it personal. I have to make it personal. So I looked at the clock on the back wall. I don't remember the time, but I'll make it up. And I went, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. So I looked at the clock and I went, okay. So I challenge everybody in the room to be honest for 24 straight hours. No exception. You gotta be honest for 24 straight hours. It's the 24-hour truth challenge. Here's what you're gonna find out. You're gonna find out how many times in a 24-hour period you are not honest with yourself and other people. Call them white lies, call them leverage, cover up, whatever you want to call it, but you're gonna find out. It's called how to raise a person's awareness, how to make them more aware, because most people are just walking through life is what they're doing. So that's how I started. I started by doing that. And I told people, I go, what's gonna happen when you do this, if you take this challenge, you're gonna feel something in your solar plexus you've never felt before. And that's what that's called is synchronicity. Your whole body synchronizes. Because when you are not honest with yourself and other people, you disrupt your whole body function. It gets disrupted. So that's how I started. And then it graduated to what I did was, there's an actual formula for happiness, and I put it in the context of their periodic table. So I use like H2O is 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. So I took the happiness formula and I put it in the periodic table. So it was F2, HT2, SW equals HF to the power of 10. Because when you practice this formula, it compounds. And I'd use the example with the audience. I'd go, and I'll use it here. So how much is a penny doubled for 30 days? Does anybody know? 2 cents, 4 cents, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. How much is a penny doubled for 30 days? It's $5,368,709.12.
Wow.
Yes. And it leaves people going, what? And I go, if you add 5 days, it's $160 million. That's called the law of compounding. Human behavior works the same exact way. That's what you're seeing in the world right now. You're seeing the compounding effect of people who, for a lot of different reasons, have grabbed hold of the opposite of happiness, and they compound it. That's why you see this country and the world the way it is. It's really not politics, because I don't do politics. I do human behavior. So they just did a study. It was released a month ago. 71% of the population of the planet Earth is unhappy. That was a recent study they did. Well, that's awful. So I started November 7th, and see, I'm used to spending 5 to 8 hours on stage. So I have to obviously condense this. So as I moved forward in what I was doing and speaking in all these different places to all these different groups, I've spoken in schools all over the world. I worked in the schools in Myanmar, which used to be Burma. I worked in the schools in Yangon. I worked in the prisons in Dublin, Ireland. I've been everywhere, talked to every group you could imagine. And the common thing that's missing is happiness, and that's because nobody really knows. In this country, it's called the pursuit of happiness. What does that mean? Well, it means it's out there somewhere. No, it isn't. It's not out there anywhere. Okay, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is unhappy. He says it right on camera in his interviews. He says he's not happy. He's driven, but he isn't happy. So I thought, I'm gonna take and do this is the number one question people ask me. Why do you call it the happiness experiment? I go, because everybody on the earth is doing the happiness experiment. That's what they're doing. I go, look at it this way, and I usually bring a bunch of props with me. So when you're born and you can't speak and you cry because you can't talk, a caregiver hands you something. It could be a binky, it could be a stuffed animal. What is that called? A pacifier. Okay? And as soon as you give a crying infant something, they stop crying. Why? Because something from the outside world changed their emotions, because they can't talk. So they can't ask to be hugged, they can't, so you give them something and they stop crying. Well, then they start to talk, and what are they doing? They're asking for things. I want this, I want that. Well, they do that through their whole entire lifetime. That's a lifelong process. I mean, what is Elon Musk doing? What is he actually doing? He's got his hands in everything, but what is the end result of what he's actually doing? He's trying to find this thing called happiness. And he's moving faster and faster and faster. I use him, I like Elon Musk. It's not a criticism of him, it's just an observation. And I've been around, without dropping a lot of names, I've worked directly with a lot of celebrities, the most well-known celebrities in the world, and they have one thing in common: they're all miserable. All of them. Oh, I coached Oprah. She is miserable, absolutely miserable. So I started this thing called the happiness experiment because I use science. I use 6 different forms of science. Quantum physics is part of this. So in life, people don't understand, because they're not taught, how their actual brain works, how this mechanism works. So 95% of behavior is subconscious. It's not conscious, it's subconscious. It's the program that was written when you were a little child, and it's all written by 7 years old. It's done. At 7 years old, the program's all written. And then you unconsciously seek different things that match what happened to you when you were a child. So I used fundamental science, and I had 10 of these made. I had 10 of these made, okay? And went, I'm going to use science and change people's behavior using a word, 2 specific colors on purpose. The colors are on purpose. And I had 10 of these made. And the second one I put up, I bolted it to the bottom of a St. Petersburg city limits sign. I took a picture of it and I put it on a Facebook page called I Love St. Pete. In 12 hours, it went crazy. I had every TV station contacting me. The first person that contacted me was Aaron Murray from Bay News 9, and they sent a film crew to follow me around and put up the signs, and they filmed it. But all the stations were doing that. That's why if you look on my Facebook page, my picture is me sitting in front of the CBS studios where they were interviewing me, and there's one of these on a palm tree right behind me, and that's how the whole thing started. But the principles behind this, I'll give you a current example. So a week ago, I shipped 120 of these to a person who's putting them in every room in a nursing home, 120 room nursing home. They're going to put one of these stickers in every room. When they do that, everybody's behavior will change in the whole nursing home. Just because this is there, their behavior will change. And it won't just change a little bit, it will dramatically change. So, Maria, you know about this part. So here was another part. Well, here it is here. So I did a presentation, not at the past one, but at the Mind, Body, Spirit Expo at the casino. And I did a presentation, and I put this on during the thing, and I put this on, and I went, okay, if one doctor in one hospital wears this white lab coat, what does this white lab coat represent? An authority figure. That's what the white lab coat does. All right. I said if one doctor puts this on and wears it in the hospital, everybody will heal 300% faster. This is science. This is not opinion. It's science. It's fact. Okay. So I do my presentation. A woman comes up to me at my book signing table. She buys a happiness sign. She buys a book, and she goes, I gotta have one of those lab coats. And I said, no, that's my stage prop. No, I gotta have one. She goes, I work at Walgreens in the pharmacy department, and everybody in there is miserable. And I said, well, is the manager gonna let you wear it? And she goes, this was the key thing. She said, I don't care. I'm wearing it anyway. I gave it to her because her telling me that. So a week later, she contacts me and she goes, well, the manager wouldn't let me wear it, but the manager let me cut the embroidered patch out and put it on my uniform. And when I did, everybody in the whole store changed. Within like 2 or 3 days, everybody that worked in the pharmacy department was different. But not just the pharmacy department, all the customers were different. So now I had, which I have with me, I had these made. I had 500 of these made. These are iron-on, okay? So I had 500 of these made. A group of them went to her. Now all the employees are wearing them in the Walgreens, and management now is considering having all their employees put this on, have this on their uniform, so they can be sewn on or ironed on. So this is science at its best, but this is what people don't even consider. And sometimes I use like the example of NASCAR cars. Why does a sponsor pay $2 million a year to have a Coca-Cola logo on the side of a race car. Why would they do that? Because they think that people are going to leave the track and go buy Coca-Cola? No, no, no. It's very scientific, because as they see that going around, that's subliminal. That goes in the marketing term is top of mind. So when they walk in a store, for some unknown reason, they can't think of anything but Coca-Cola. And they wind up buying it going, I don't even like Coca-Cola, and they buy it anyway. I had one of these signs made. I should have brought it with me. I told my sign guy, I said, make me a sign that looks exactly like this. The word has 9 letters. It's the same font, and the word is spaghetti. And I tell audiences, if I go put 596 spaghetti signs all over St. Petersburg, you wouldn't be able to buy spaghetti in St. Pete. Every store would be sold out. But the weirder thing is, all these people would buy it, take it home, and go, I don't even like spaghetti, why'd I buy it? The marketing term is top of mind. Okay, so if I start putting signs up, what will happen to the people who see them? The word will become top of mind. So I started getting messages. Oh my God, I saw your sign. I'm not depressed anymore. I have people, I can literally make you cry. Thousands of people have contacted me about the signs and how it's changed their lives, because it's using pure science. So my story, why did I do this? I was born with PTSD. What? People go, you were born with PTSD. How do you get born with PTSD? You go, well, when my mother was carrying me, my father was a pilot in World War II. He was captain in the Army Air Force. That was the predecessor to the Air Force. So my mom's pregnant, my father's flying an airplane in World War II. Well, what emotions was she feeling? Every negative emotion you can imagine, from anxiety to fear to paranoia to everything. Where did all those emotions go? Through the USB cable. What? Through the umbilical cord. That's the USB cable. They went right into my brain, into my forming brain. So I got all her emotions. Yeah, that's scientific. It's also medical, because whatever a mother is feeling emotionally goes right to the forming child. Well, then I'm born at 12 pounds. Hello. And I was breech. And they didn't do C-sections back then. And the umbilical cord was wrapped around my throat. I almost died in childbirth, and so did my mother. So I was born with PTSD. You may notice my voice does not match my age. When I'm on the phone with people and I go, you don't know how old I am. You've never seen me. How old am I by my voice? They go, 36, 39, 41. Not even close. Not even close. That is because of that, but there's other reasons which are in the book, which is another part of my story, because I don't try to change anybody's spiritual or religious beliefs. I don't do that. I talk about what happened to me, but I don't try to change other people's belief. I tell my story. And so why did I start the whole sign thing? I was suffering from PTSD. Why did I have another horrible thing? I've had 36 traumas in my lifetime. At one point I had 6 therapists at the cost of $50,000. And I was bound and determined, I'm driven, bound and determined to solve the PTSD, but what made it 1,000 times worse is on July 29, 2012, I was speaking in Australia, and I don't have a family, I had one son. He was my best friend, and he worked with me when I was here. He jumped off the Skyway while I was in Australia. And I was 8,800 miles from home, and I was stranded there. I worked for a celebrity, and they abandoned me and left me there. and didn't help me get home, which compounded it even worse. So that is why I started doing this. I went, if I carry the word happiness with me all the time, I'm going to use science to change my own emotional pattern. And so what happened as a result of that is it started working. So I kept handling the word and carrying the stickers. I had the stickers made. I've given out 12,000 of the stickers. Every day I give them out, every single day. In stores, now people come up and ask me for the stickers. Now you'll see them all over cars. They're all over baby carriages. They're every place, everywhere. And the city of Gulfport gave me permission to put them everywhere. So they're stuck on everything in Gulfport. They're sticking all over the place. So the idea is, how do you use, so here's a statement for you. First there was the Word. That's interesting. First there was the Word, and the Word changed everything. So I've read 2,300 nonfiction books. What? I've read 2,300 nonfiction books. I've studied every principle of whatever you want to call it. Empowerment, motivation. You can, I was talking to somebody yesterday at the full moon thing that Debbie did on the beach. I was down there, and I was telling somebody, people are trying to live happily ever after. Well, in order to live happily ever after, you have to be happy first, because you're not going to find something out there. Anything you find in the outside world can be taken away. It can go away. So in my book, there's a chapter called Anybody Can Become Homeless, because Elon Musk can become homeless, because all that has to happen is one domino needs to fall, and then all the dominoes will fall. I mean, that's happened to many, many, many celebrities. Right? So where you find it is in here is where you find it. So I go back to the happiness formula. So what is the formula? F2. Well, what's the F stand for? Forgiveness. What's the 2 mean? You have to forgive yourself and other people. And don't make up reasons. Don't make up reasons why you don't understand what that person did to me. Well, the problem with all that is the person that did that to you isn't feeling the pain, you are. So if you want to hate the person, go ahead. But that hate, which you see in this country right now, well, that hate is affecting the hater. That's who it's affecting. And so happiness can't happen unless there's forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself. And you see, in my case, what's the natural thing for a parent to do when they lose their child, period, but lose their child to suicide? The first thing the parent does is, I should have, I could have, why didn't I? That's the natural process. And 30% of parents do the same thing their children did, because they cannot manage the pain. They can't. But to jump back about the whole subconscious mind thing, one day, and see, if we were taught how our computer worked, we could work it and do anything, create miracles. Miracles are easy to do. I do it all the time. But I had to figure out how to reverse the effects of PTSD, which I did. I wrote about it. It's in the book. Now, if somebody else on the earth has done it, they haven't gone public. So I start on tour November 16th with a military group traveling all over the United States, teaching veterans and their families how to reverse PTSD. The VA doesn't know how to do it. Without drugs and without therapy, I know how to reverse it. Now, what's really interesting about that is, who knows what an algorithm is? Do you know what an algorithm is in computer terms? An algorithm? So if you look up If you go on your phone or on your computer and you look up a lamp, and you look it up on Amazon or somewhere, for the rest of the time, if you do it on your phone or you do it on your computer, on the right-hand side, lamps will come up. That's an algorithm. It tracks everything you do and it connects you. Now, here's what humans do and they don't know they're doing it. Every child on the earth, no exception, has been traumatized as a child. There's no exception to that. So every child's been traumatized. So every child has trauma inside them. Explain that, okay? You're 4 years old, and a caregiver, parent, teacher, peer, friend, shut up. Don't do that. Eat that whether you like it or not. Go to your room. If you come out, I'm getting the belt. Well, that's the term for that is discipline. But a 4-year-old can't process discipline because all 4-year-olds are looking for certain things: acceptance, approval, appreciation, love. But that's not what discipline is. But a 4-year-old can't grasp hold of that. That's why all children have been traumatized. And that trauma lives inside them. And it's an algorithm. So without realizing it in psychology terms, I have a 35-year background in psychology. So it's called trauma bond. So the person unconsciously looks for things that match the original. That's like a belief system. A person has a belief system, no matter what it is. If it's a spiritual belief system, a religious belief system, any kind of core belief, they walk through their life and they only look for things that match their belief, and they ignore everything else. So they only look for matches because that's how the brain works. I mean, if you search your computer, you're only going to find what's in the hard drive. There's nothing, you can't find something in the hard drive that wasn't installed. Well, that's what the brain is. So when I was, I'll give you a real life example. All right, so I was 4 years old. My parents took me to a hospital to get my tonsils removed. I can remember this like it happened yesterday. So I'm walking down this hallway, institutional green. Yeah, you have to give me the hook or the candle, okay? Because this can go on to infinity. But I'll leave you with this thought. So I'm walking, my parents are walking me down this institutional hallway, institutional green. They walk me into a hospital room. It's got bunk beds in it for kids. They put me in the room and they walk away and they never looked back. I watch them walk down the hall. They never looked back. I'm 4 years old. What is a 4-year-old thinking? I just got abandoned. What did that cause? In my lifetime, I'm supposed to have 12 major surgeries, including emergency cancer surgery within 48 hours. I never showed up for all 12 surgeries. The only surgery I've had in my life was my tonsils out. So what did I connect? I connected the dots. I don't ever want to be in a hospital again for any reason. Oh yeah, the doctor that diagnosed me with the cancer, you're not showing up for the surgery? I said, no, I'm not. That was 29 years ago. I do not have cancer, and it was emergency cancer surgery. So, see, the whole thing is, here's the simplest part of the whole thing. If you take the sign or the sticker and you look at it 3 times a day for 9 seconds, your whole entire life will change and you won't know why. You'll have no clue why it changed. So I can go on till 4 o'clock this afternoon, easily.
Well, I wanted